All right, so Vuja Day dropped their 010 lookbook, and I have some major issues with this next collection that's coming up. Before we break down exactly what I'm talking about, I thought I'd give some context to like how I'm judging this because it there seems to be like this misconception that there are these magical real designers that exist and create clothing, and then we have this other grading scale for the fake designers. And what I mean by fake designers are people who start a brand based on their following, influencer brand, people who have YouTube channels or Instagram accounts and then make a clothing brand. So let's address that first so that the rest of this video will have context and will make sense to you. So maybe like a year ago, I remember making that Instagram fashion reaction video, which I need to redo one of those because your boy was so out of it that day. But regardless, a lot of people got mad at me for putting PAF on that list. Basically, a lot of their reasoning came down to it as, PAF is a real brand, and the rest of the brands on that list were just influencer fake brands. And that PAF is a real brand because it's stocked on places like Essence and it has a designer who went to fashion school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which kind of like made me think, why is there this gatekeepy elitist mentality behind fashion designers? Because clothing at the end of the day is basically just another art form, right? And while this kind of mindset definitely will apply to other art forms in life, I feel it's not nearly as apparent as in like the music industry, for example. So obviously in any art form, but again, we're using this analogy of music. You have like mainstream music and you have underground, right? Like if I was in a Discord call with some friends
Where you
and
going with this,
someone was like,
bro?
"Oh, yo, who's your guys' favorite rap artist right now?"
Yeet
I
Glaze is
wouldn't give them an
crazy.
answer and say like, "Oh, well, my two favorite real rap artists are someone like Yachty and
Where you
Future,
going with this,
and then
bro?
my two fake favorite rap artists are Yapo JJ and Doo Kane."
Oh
Like just
hell
because
no.
Yapo JJ and Doo are underground doesn't make them any less of an artist, music artist, than a Future or a Yachty.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I don't understand why in fashion we have this like elitist complex that you have to go to a Central St. Martin's or an FIT or a Bunta or show at Paris Fashion Week or be recognized by LVMH to be considered a real designer or a real brand. Now, I understand why people have that opinion, and to a certain degree, I share the sentiment that comes behind the opinion because in today's age, it's so trendy to have your own brand. How many YouTube videos have you seen on your feed where it's like 19 years old brand owner making however much money a month? So I understand the oversaturation and why you're so tired of it, but you shouldn't let that discredit and dilute your view on brands who are actually making good clothing. And a lot of these brands don't have a creative director that went to one of these esteemed schools. Trust me, guys, I am as tired as you are of the next hoodie and jeans company that comes out claiming that they're revolutionizing the space. But again, we need to hold them to the same scale as every other designer out there because there's only one scale. Just because the creative directors of some of these smaller independent companies don't have any like formal training or education in design doesn't mean that they can't be real designers. Now, they can be really bad at designing, but it doesn't mean that they're not real designers. I just feel like the space is becoming extremely gatekeepy and it's really annoying to see how we hold certain brands to different standards. And spoiler alert, a lot of these bigger conglomerates like Dior's, like Louis Vuitton, like all the other LVMH and carrying companies, they're kind of tanking right now, guys. And I don't mean just financially, I mean with quality, with all of these reports with, child enforced labor, cutting costs, putting out really terrible products. Like, why are we dying on a hill for these brands? Like, they're not going to pay you any money for like to defend them. And everything that I say in this video and all the critiques that I'm going to have for this collection is coming from a viewpoint of I really do think Ken Ajima is a great designer and he is a great creative, and Vuja has a real chance of becoming a very mainstream brand and company. So just keep all of that in the back of your mind or in the front of your mind before commenting about my opinions. Like, again, you guys can disagree with what I'm going to say. That's totally fine. But I just wanted you to kind of understand where I'm coming from when I say the things that I'm going to say for this collection. Okay, so now that we got those formalities out of the way, let's get into the actual collection itself. So here is basically like, I guess if Vuja Day were a company that showed on a runway, this is like their show notes. They do this with every collection. It's like the theme of why Ken made these clothes and the purpose that these clothes are serving, or the message, artistic or functional, he is trying to convey to his audience. So, and I will compare this to all of the previous themes and collections that Vuja Day has put out to this point as well. Right. So we have protein is a fundamental component of the diet and the body, acting as a catalyst for both macro and micro muscle groups, cognitive functions, and key hormones that directly contribute to quality of life. It is made up of key structural elements of every single cell and influences virtually all chemical reactions in the body. In order to apply this theory to the core concept of the collection, an evaluation and implementation of the role of proteins in our garments has been undertaken. The role of proteins in our garments has been undertaken. There's a reason why I read that twice. The reconstitution of zip-up hoodies, leather jackets, windbreakers, and heavy-duty work jackets results in a transformation of the body's dimensions with reference to the requirements of everyday athletics. Continuing our experimentation with hybridity, shorts are deconstructed and reconstructed with destroyed linings to represent fluidity in extremes. Additionally, kangaroo pockets are repurposed into fanny packs, and leathers are redefined to feel like pajamas. The collection is designed to be worn in a manner that exaggerates its proportions, with distinctive vintage treatments that are in harmony with the needs of the typical wearer. With distinctive vintage treatments that are in harmony with the needs of the typical wearer. With over 40 pieces this season, each garment is crafted to adapt and alter its shape in accordance with the wearer's lifestyle. If you guys are confused, that's okay, because so am I. So I'm like not entirely sure what Ken means by this collection is inspired by protein, and I don't really know if he is either, because we have kind of conflicting themes with the description and then conflicting themes of what he said in vlogs, because I think there's 2 vlogs, I'll try to find the clip of it, where he basically states that he was inspired to make at least one piece of clothing from this collection, the firefighter graphic tee, because he saw a firefighter wearing a t-shirt or something and looked at him and said, that looks really protein, or they dress in a very muscular way. Guys, I'm trying right now, okay? I promise I'm not on VD payroll. I'm trying my hardest to understand what he's talking about, but I'll just play the clip so that you guys can maybe hear and decide for yourself.
Yeah, this was reference to
Ah,
we also put this on the back of the t-shirt.
okay. Did you design this before you knew you were going to do this?
I was looking through like references when I was designing this collection, and I just thought how the FDNY people dressed was like super protein. They were like super buff and shit.
Yeah.
So, giving him the benefit of the doubt, I have 3 like overarching themes that I think this collection is supposed to be following. And again, I'm just going off of what we have been provided, because that is how a collection should be judged, right? So the first is the most obvious, which is protein and everything that comes with protein. So the literal meaning, you can take it figuratively and apply it to gym bros, athleisure. He's also mentioned firefighter, so firefighter core, workwear. I know a lot of firefighters tend to wear more workwear even when they're off duty, like Carhartt, etc. And then lastly, we have Vuja Day's core aesthetics as a house itself. So when I look at like a collection of clothing, there's like 2 main areas that I use to like judge if it's good or bad. And one, does it have a theme? Is it cohesive? Do I understand what they're trying to do? Is it new? Is it needed? And the second is basically, do I like it? personally, either for my own personal closet and style aesthetic, or do I just like looking at it and do I think it was a really good idea to make? Is it thought provoking? Is it interesting? So, tackling the first point of is it cohesive and does it follow a theme? When I first look at this collection, what really stands out to me is workwear. So, that's like the obvious theme that I see in this. But it's not workwear done in like a blue collar firefighter type of way. It's done in like a trendy influencer fashion reels type of way. And then I see elements of like Uniqlo throughout the collection as well, which Uniqlo and workwear doesn't really go into the same sentence together. And then we have some core elements of Vuja sprinkled throughout the collection. And then we have sweatpants. The word that best describes this collection for me is just confusing. I don't really know what the point of 010 is. I don't really know what the goal of Ken was making this collection. And I know in the past, Ken has said that he doesn't want Vuja to become limited to one aesthetic. And, that's fair enough. But at bare minimum, a collection needs to be cohesive under one theme, one overarching theme. That's what a clothing collection is. If you didn't want that theme, just drop clothes, a couple t-shirts, a couple hoodies, a couple jackets like, by themselves. Don't make a collection, title it, give it a theme, and then just completely not deliver on that theme. The only real item that follows the theme of protein and firefighters and, this workwear blue collar vibe is the graphic tee that blatantly has firefighter on it, on the front of it, like something Denma would do. And we're going to get to the Denma thing in a second as well, because there are some looks in here, not naming any names, that look suspiciously familiar to a certain Georgian designer. And like I said before, every Vuja collection since 8, because that was really Ken's first cohesive collection where he made a full lookbook, named the items, and it all followed a similar aesthetic within the collection itself. To date, I think is Vuja best collection that Ken has made. And the whole theme of 008 was, bedding, blankets, being comfortable, and that theme made sense with the use of, cupro lining with a lot of the items, things draping over you like a blanket, like the Adonis coat, which I think is probably the best item he has single-handedly made out of everything with Vuja. And just the whole idea of, comfort over style, although the style itself had a very strong Vuja DNA throughout. And then we have 009, which was titled Ego. And I think this is his strongest thematic representation in a collection because it was a direct reflection of Ken's personal closet. And I remember making that reaction video before Ken made the vlog and said that in his vlog, and I totally got it. Like, just looking at it, I was like, wow, what I'm looking at just looks like stuff that Ken would wear in everyday life. And it turned out that was true, and that's really good when an audience can understand without any, necessary supplementary reading or explanation of why he's making what he's making. Not only was it a direct reflection of his personal closet, which tied into the theme of ego, but he also named the items after people like famous movie stars or musicians that would wear those type of motifs in real life or in iconic movies. And then, like I said, gave it that name, which is crazy because that's like a quadruple entendre at that point. And then at the same time, all of these items still had Vuja's core aesthetics throughout the entire collection. So I feel like now you can kind of start to see why, when I'm looking at 010, I'm really confused with this whole theme of protein. Not only just the theme, but just looking at the clothing themselves. Yes, some of these looks and some of these specific pieces does look like a Vuja piece, but overall, the collection as a whole is really, really confusing. It almost looks as if Ken hired like a fashion trend forecasting agency to see what people on Instagram between like the ages of 16 and 21 are wearing, and then try to like incorporate that into this theme of protein. And again, I don't think the problem here is the source of inspiration, protein or firefighters or workwear or anything like that. The problem I'm having is the execution on the theme. For example, there's so many things he could have done differently to actually incorporate the theme of protein within this collection, like leaning into athleisure. And it's not like athleisure hasn't been done before or there isn't a market for athleisure clothing. Athleisure is a huge genre within the fashion world itself. I mean, and it has a huge scale. You can go from anywhere between Rick Owens, Cole Buxton, or Lululemon. It's no secret that Rick Owens, who, a lot of people consider one of the best designers of the current world, is extremely motivated and inspired by the gym, not just for wearing clothes and in a fashion context, but just for, general well-being in life. There's this famous quote that he says working out is modern couture. No outfit is going to make you look or feel as good as having a fit body. Buy less clothing and go to the gym instead. And he's also stated about how he designs clothes that he can wear to the gym because he has this really peculiar build that doesn't fit a lot of traditional companies. And things like the Geo basket or some of the tanks that he makes, he literally made to work out in. So again, bringing this back to Vuja Day, having something like protein and the gym bro big buff reference source or whatever, you could have easily have tied that into athleisure. And then not only could have Ken leaned into the whole athleisure genre of fashion, but then he could have made the athleisure pieces out of something like milk fabric, which is made out of casein fibers, which would have really pushed that protein narrative. And for all my non-gym bros out there who might not know what casein is, it's typically used in counterpart with whey isolate, which whey isolate is a fast digesting protein, which you typically take right before or right after working out. And then casein is a type of protein that is slow digesting, which you would take usually before bed because it promotes sleep, because it engages with your digestive system, and it also promotes muscle recovery. That would have been such a cool thing that not a lot of people, at least in like this kind of fashion space, are really experimenting with. And a lot of companies use milk fiber or milk fabric rather, to make clothing. It's not like this new revolutionary thing, but it would have been so cool, for example, to make that like blue and white cotton cashmere checkered shirt out of casein cashmere. Like that would have been so cool to really bring this back into protein. He could have made, because again, this is like a spring summer type of thing, he could have made, form-fitting t-shirts out of casein, like a milk shirt. He could have played on, there's so much to like be had with like the topic and the theme of protein. And like, it just didn't hit at all for me. Another thing that he referenced or said was a reference piece for him, again, with like that firefighter t-shirt, was, looking at firefighters. I don't know if he's like just finds firefighters cool or whatnot. Shout out to my firefighters with the whole LA fire situation going on. It's been crazy. But yeah, I don't really know why he stopped there at like a graphic t-shirt. Like we could have gotten super creative with the types of jackets we made in this collection to reference that of a fire coat, and made it out of like a canvas or a moleskin and made it distressed to make it look like, it was worn by an actual firefighter, or, took inspiration from off-duty firefighters and really leaned into that style of workwear, not this like super voluminous, double knee, trendy Balenciaga style distressed workwear pants. We could have used reflective 3M material. We could have used colors like lime green. There's just a lot to be had with this whole like firefighter reference thing. And every time I just look at the collection as a whole, I just think, why? Why did he make this? And there's nothing that I hate more than purposeless clothing, especially from someone who's so good at creating and someone who I've become such a big fan of. And guys, trust me when I say this, I know already that the vast majority of you watching this video, especially if you're watching this video as a Vuja Day fan, you're really not going to care at all about this, how he reincorporates theme into his clothing, and does the clothing make sense, or the purpose of the clothing. I totally understand that. Even in the fashion community as a whole, I feel, at least in the content space, this type of thinking and caring about these things in fashion are very in the minority. And I don't mean to say that as coming off as an elitist or anything. It's just how I enjoy fashion, which if you don't enjoy it that way, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm just bringing this to your attention so that you know it exists. And maybe after watching this video, you will have a new way of thinking, or you might really disagree with what I said and try to go and prove me wrong in a certain way, or you might really agree with what I said and might be inspired to do more research on brands that you like and to see if what they're making is needed or if they're just kind of trying to flip a profit, which again, that's fine. But when we're judging clothing, when we're judging fashion from an art perspective, it's just not hitting the mark. But anyways, now that we got all of that analytical big brain analysis yapping out of the way, we are on to the brain rot portion of this video where I invited 4 friends to basically just goon and geek over the 010 lookbook, and we're just going to talk about it like how we did in the first reaction video I had with 009's collection. So hope you enjoy and like and subscribe. All right, so you wanted to start with introduction. We'll start with Joe since Joe's been here before. Mr. Roadman.
Hi.
Okay. Great start.
I'm Joe. Thank you for having me. I'm from across the pond. Yeah.
And what's your YouTube channel? I'll plug everyone's on the video, but where can
What is
people
it?
find you?
I think it's Joe Maru or at Joe Maru. One of the two. Yeah.
All right, thanks, man. Toby, Mr. Tobias.
Oh, I'm Toby. I'm from California. My YouTube channel is T Kirch.
T Kirch.
Yeah.
The Filipino.
I'm Tristan. We got a YouTube channel yet, but I'm an IG, Tristan Awahela. I'm not gonna spell it out. Kim got it. But
Wow,
I'm from
thanks,
Seattle.
thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to get you
Yeah.
on YouTube, bro. You're the only one now.
Yeah.
We
Actually,
gotta
yeah,
peer
so-
pressure you every day in the group chat.
Yeah.
And then
Yes,
Mr.
yes,
Ma.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Alex Ma. I have a YouTube channel here. I also have a TikTok and Instagram where I just repost my TikTok videos. But I'm from Boston and I go to school here with next to Toby. So yeah,
Got a little bit of
Cool.
everything everywhere.
absolutely.
And then I guess also something that could be cool is like, how did everyone get into VD? Like, how did everyone get into Vuja?
Oh,
Because I feel like
yeah, that's
everyone is like kind of into Vuja at varying
Yeah.
levels in this call. So like, if anyone wants to start, just brief. It doesn't have to be like a whole backstory, but like, how did you guys get into Vuja?
I got to figure it out, you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to
like
think right now.
I don't
Like,
even know. Yeah.
Wait,
think it was
'cause I don't
for
actually
me.
own any Vuja pieces. I don't know if anyone else does. Everyone here own something from them, or
Definitely, yeah. We're all
Yeah.
wearing it
Joe-
right now, bro. We're just
I'm
dress
wearing
code,
it.
bro.
Do you
It's
Wearing
dress
dress
code.
Do you
I
have,
had more, but I sold it all that last week.
does Tristan have Vuja Day, or
He's
do you-
wearing it, bro.
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
wearing the
he's
page.
wearing the
Wearing-
knit.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't see. Okay. Okay, well, I'm the only person who doesn't have Vuja
That's
Day
fine.
on,
I should have dropped something off.
You're right. You're right. Good
Uniform.
job.
Uniform.
Yeah. So maybe I'll go first since I'm technically the least involved with VD, but I just watch a lot of fashion videos on YouTube, and so obviously like Ken's videos are gonna come up. But I didn't watch Ken during COVID. I think a lot of people have a relationship to VD that kind of developed through COVID, and that was a really like formative time for a lot of people's personal style. So Ken's influence kind of carried over, but I got into fashion more recently than that, and I also wasn't watching a whole lot of YouTube back then. So I kind of look at VD and I don't associate it with Ken as much as I think a lot of other people tend to.
Hmm.
Like I don't associate it with Gizmo and Comaware and all these other brands. Like I just kind of see it as a standalone and like entity, and yeah, I don't own anything from them, but I really like their style. It's cool.
That's gonna be nice to have though in this video. I feel like because you have a completely probably different perspective than a lot
Yeah, I
of
think
us.
I might look at it a little bit less. Not to say that you guys are biased, but I definitely don't have the love and the admiration for like Ken and like his development, and I don't have the same level of a perspective as you guys might with that.
I'll go next just because I feel like that's a good point to make, because I think I definitely had a huge bias in 7, 8, and then half of like the 9 kind of drop cycle because they dropped it over months, right? I think so. Obviously, when I got into fashion, he was definitely probably the second or third person that I found on YouTube. The way I actually found his channel was looking for people's like reviews on pleats, like Isamiaki pleats. and he was like the
Oh,
police
here you
guy
go.
back then.
Yeah.
So he was like the only one who had like a comprehensive like breakdown of like sizing, model numbers, like all that kind of stuff, which is also
Mhm.
kind of like why I wanted to make a channel in the first place, is because no one was making content on VD and like the sizing on VD, and like it's so hard to like get into a brand where no one reviews it. So
Yeah.
that's also kind of why I kind of started a channel. But I wouldn't say when I found Ken's channel, I got into VD because he had his brand already. Because I think I found him in like 21-ish, 22. I'm like Alex, I've only been into style for like 2 years. Like it's
Yeah.
2.5 years. So I'm really new as well.
Mm.
But obviously I watched, like, he was just entertaining because when getting into the fashion space, watching like pickups videos and really the vlogs, like that's what really got me. Like I really liked lifestyle type of vlogs that had to do more with fashion than anything else. So I knew Vuja Day existed, but honestly, it was so like looking at like bondage cargo pants and stuff like that. Like I just was not ready to like even
Yeah.
think about purchasing
Yeah.
anything from Vuja Day. The first collection that really made me like think about Vuja Day as like, oh, I might want to wear this was 7, which was the kimono dyed collection with the
Yep.
flannel and the pants. So that was like my first introduction of like, I'm gonna make a really big purchase and like try getting into style and everything. I think I had a few Our Legacy pieces and a few Acne Studios pieces, so I was kind of familiar, but that was like my real big jump. So in a way, he was like one of the first brands that I like bought into fashion. So definitely had a huge bias, especially going into 8, which I think is like his best collection. But I would say as I got like as the years went on, it's only been like 2, but the more and more I get into fashion, the more and more I'm getting into like the industry side and doing research and really just falling in love with like fashion as a whole, not just this really super niche like influencer to like consumer like kind of side of fashion. So this is probably going to be my first like breakdown of Vuja Day. Maybe there's still going to be a bit of bias, but probably like the least bias I'm probably going to have. So
Yeah. Well,
it's
you have distance from it. Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely could say that I was super biased from with 8 and 9, but now it's more of like I'm holding him to like a completely different scale, and the brand in general as a different scale. So
Well, it's
Tristan?
interesting because I feel like
Yeah.
you tend to like fixate on brands a little bit, which is a cool thing. Like
Oh,
I'm
I
all for it.
definitely do. It's just because that's
Yeah.
how I enjoy like any type of art, anything. Like even with like, because I got into fragrance before fashion, and when the reason why I got into fragrance was because I fell in love with like perfumers, like the whole story of how each perfumer is so different, how they get inspiration, how they go about harvesting like certain ingredients and like making it into notes. And then the reason why I like fashion and fragrance so much is because you can experience it yourself, like as a sense. Like you can like sit there and spray it and like think about what the perfumer is telling you, and
Yeah.
with like designers, this world that they're trying to sell you with like their show notes or like whatever else. So that's why I like those two so much. But definitely I really like to try to take in like, only a few at a time, really think about it. I also feel like with where my style is, there is only, I'm not gonna say there's only like a few brands that kind of fit into that mold, but there's like some strong ones, and then there's like a lot of other things that you could also wear. So Tristan, how did you get into VD? Because I've seen you on, I found you on Instagram randomly because obviously
Yeah.
you don't make content, so you're like you got like featured by a really big fit pick page. When I first got on Instagram, like I thought that was sick, like people that got on those
Yeah.
crazy pages.
Yeah, like similar to like he was just part of my whole fashion journey. Like I started watching with like the Issei era, the fucking how to shop Levi's and shit.
Oh yeah.
So like I was like more into streetwear, like hypey shit before, and then I wanted to just try something else, more like clean, vintage, and all that. And I think I wasn't really much into the bondage cargos, but I think when he released like the knits and like the flannels, I gravitated towards that more. Um, and I also like the behind the scenes, like how he makes the product, his pickups. Those are like my favorite content back then. Right now his content's still like lackluster, but I mean still enjoyable. Like if it pops up, I'll still watch it. Um, but I think like the price points really changed my view on like VD.
We'll get into that. That's a good point to bring. We'll
Yeah.
definitely get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also feel like I've watched less content creators in the fashion space in general, at least the ones that got me into it, like Ramia, like D Sims, like Ken. It was more of like a religious ritual when they uploaded. It was like super interesting, but now it's like I kind of could care less about the vlogging content creation aspect of them too. So,
No, yeah, exactly.
but
Yeah.
sounds like you're probably been here. You've probably been to VD like the longest out of all of us, probably.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would assume
But
so.
I definitely like grabbed inspiration from like lookbooks, but I think that opened a new world for me for like other fashion brands,
Mm.
um, like even influencer brands as well. But yeah, I've been with VD for a long time.
That's cool because you saw it in real time, whereas like I'm kind of like watching. I probably gotten like again like 2.5 ish years ago, so I was watching the like I've seen all of his videos, but like it's different when they're posting in current day. Like you're into fashion at the same time he's posting about these
Yeah,
type of videos. So like I wasn't into fashion in the 2020 era, so like you were participating in fashion while he was also dropping those kind of videos. So I feel like it's a bit different to like have that.
yeah, yeah. I was like fully engaged with like Instagram brands, like just trying to like network with other people,
Mm.
whether it was like in the UK or like the US. Like we're always like uh trying to get in the algorithm of like posting each other, but I've been quite lazy with my Instagram.
All right, Mr. Joe.
Yeah, for me, I couldn't quite remember when I got into VDs. I did a little scroll back on their gram. I see like December 2022 is when I first liked something. So it was around the time he was releasing that leather jacket.
Okay, yeah.
And I think I was aware of Ken and like Gizmo a little bit when I was younger. And I sort of knew they had a beef. I wasn't too into them. And I think it was when I booked my holiday for Japan around that time. So December 2022 was going in June the next year. I think my friend he told me like, oh, you should start vlogging. Check out like this Ken Ijima guy. So that's when I sort of really looked into his videos, just to sort of find spots, sort of to study like the vlogging style. And it's from there that I sort of discovered VD. But it wasn't really until was it '08 that I really wanted to like get something because I think that was the first drop where I was more sort of involved and like paying more attention to it. Because before I kind of just used the videos to find spots in Tokyo. And like
Fair
yeah,
enough.
and for, I think for yeah, game is game. And I think for '08 that was like I was like wow, like this brand's so cool. I remember the look with the Enzo and the Doma. I was obsessed with that. Like for months, I was waiting for it to come out. So I got that, loved it. My first sort of VD items, and then from there, been paying attention to them. Then going into '09 when we did the last lookbook, '09, right? Yeah, when we did the last lookbook discussion. I think like I was super biased back then. That's when I was like really like into like yeah, Ninja was like this is the guy. VD's
Yeah.
the brand. And now slowly, as I've sort of in the past like weeks or months now, I've sort of like slowly switched up my style. Not that I've gained less interest in VD, but I'm looking at it from like a different angle. Before it was like, oh yeah, I want like this piece, pair it with this denim. Rather now it's sort of seeing like what works for me. So I think I've sort of gone through that phase of being like really obsessed with it. And whereas now it's just a brand that's on my radar. So at the top of it for sure, but I'm not like super obsessed with it anymore. So yeah, I'm excited to discuss this lookbook coming from that
It's funny
sort
you,
of a new
you
angle.
say that. I think we both kind of are going through the same thing at the same time with like
Yeah,
our
yeah, yeah.
styles. Like I was the way you described it was like perfect. Like being like
Mm,
low key obsessed with it, like trying to buy like the whole collection because everything just looked like wearable and like it's just perfect. Where it's like now it's not that I'm less interested in Vuja at all. It's just I'm my style is just changing. Like and it's
yeah,
making me have a more objective look at things. I'm not so like lost
yeah,
in the
yeah,
sauce of
exactly,
like my whole closet
exactly.
needs to be Vuja. So.
And I think for me, I've been into like fashion and clothes. Like, oh, I'm 25 now since I was like 18, 17, something.
Damn, you've been in
Um,
for you've been damn. I didn't care.
yeah,
Yeah, when I was 17, 18, bro, I did not care what I looked like because I grew up in a beach town.
maybe not 17, maybe not 17, maybe like 18,
I think
19.
it's super cool though
Uh,
when people at that age are like super into like
yeah,
fashion.
no,
So it's like I
definitely.
think about it, I'm like, damn, bro, like I just was a goober when I was 17 or 18. Like I was just
For I was
rocking
trolling
board
back then
shorts
too.
every day and Hurley
But I
tan.
bring that up because I think I've sort of gone through all the phases,
Yeah, okay.
like my sort of stage of fashion, then being obsessed with brands, being obsessed with like runway, and then getting obsessed with VD other brands. So I think now not to like act cool and like nonchalant, but I think I am at the stage where I kind of don't give like I love clothes. Like you see me buy so much stuff
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
But like there's a level to where I kind of don't give a shit. Like so it's like if I'm paying attention to a brand, it means I'm kind of interested in it. But you know, it's hard to word. But yeah, kind of like neutral point at the moment, I'd say.
Got it. Got it.
Mm.
Mr. Tobias.
Um, so I guess initially the first time I sort of heard of VD was wait, so Tristan, you know like the Drip Tea Market people or like Sado Room now, right?
Oh yeah, it doesn't remember boys. Yeah.
Yeah. I like I watched her videos religiously when I was like 5 years ago when they did like all the sneaker stuff and like I think they showed VD there. So that's like
Yeah.
when I first saw it, but I never got into it until a lot later, to be honest. Probably around like 7, 8, was when I more like paid more attention, and that's also when I was sort of paying more attention to clothes in general, um, from that sort of perspective, I guess. But I didn't consider buying anything really from 8 or 7. At the time, the price was a little much for like what I was looking for. Um, but when 9 rolled around, I kind of, switched my, things changed, and I
You
was like,
folded.
all right. Yeah, I did. I did. Um, and I was like, oh, like the Liam corduroy jeans, these are kind of cool. Like maybe I'll buy them because I really like the way they looked on the model and the lookbook. And when they were doing stuff like the day before also, they just look really nice on body with like movement and stuff. Um, but yeah, that's sort of how I entered the brand, and I think the way I like buy from VD, I don't know if it's like unique, but I guess I look at things very like piece by piece for when I'm buying stuff. I really just focus on how I can wear it and how it's gonna work with my wardrobe.
Mm.
I never had the big like infatuation with Ken, to be honest. I kind of just enjoyed the clothes for what they were. Um, but yeah, that's sort of how I got into that stuff, and that's where I am now.
Dude, I remember we were DMing so much during that period when you were looking at those Liams, bro. That was so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, bro.
Like I remember that. That was so
Bro,
hilarious.
the thing is like they're really cool, but they're kind of hard to wear because like on the model they do such a good job at like making the clothes sit well, and
Yeah,
it's hard to get them to sit like that.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. That's a huge thing
they're
with a
they're
lot of their
nice.
pieces.
Yeah, they're just not that like that specific pair of pants is just not practical to wear because sometimes it just doesn't look good. Like I could wear it with like 2 pairs of shoes, and I don't know. They're cool, but I'll probably sell them one day.
I did the
Yeah.
same thing with the Amalias, the indigo ones. It was like one of the coolest things
Yeah,
I'd
with
seen.
yeah.
And then just
Yeah.
like you said, they did not sit anywhere near how they did in the lookbook. And it just became so hard to wear, only look good with like 1 or 2 pairs of shoes. So I just got rid of them.
Yeah,
So
Bro, the
it's
fit
just
on
like
those is horrible, man. But let's not get into that.
okay,
the,
that's cool
the
though.
divisor series looks cool, but it's
Yeah.
not practical.
Dude, their
No,
lookbooks they always
definitely.
cook. Their photographer, nah, I forgot what her name is. She's Korean, bro. She cooks. Every
Yeah.
lookbook, their photographer is so crazy. I love their lookbooks. And like the rollout, not with this one, but like with their typically with their collections, the way he like does social media and everything.
Yeah.
He reminds me of like Apple, of like small fashion brands, like the way the packaging super satisfying, the way that they like add campaign without
I
even it
see
being an
that.
ad. It's like his own
Yeah.
like whatever. It's that still always reminded me of for some reason.
Mm.
And then so the other thing I want to say was before we get into like yapping about it, what's everyone's one word to describe 10? If there's one word you could
Haha.
use. Okay, we got Carhartt for the show. You guys can think about it. I know we didn't brief anyone
Yeah,
on
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
before.
You didn't give us the questions in advance.
Yeah, so
Quite
anyone watching this video,
Off the dome, off the
just
dome.
know, because like I have a whole
Dumb.
intro part of this to this video, whole pretext, and they didn't watch it. So like this isn't like we all have like
He's
this
gonna
mob
pop quiz us.
mentality and like talked about what we are gonna say and then have the same opinions. The whole reason why I chose these people, besides like they're just my friends, like I feel like there's a good enough diversity of background to the brand that everyone's gonna have their own opinion. And if we have the similar opinion about something, it probably says a lot about whatever issue we're talking about. So for anyone out there wondering.
I'm gonna pull it
Still
up right now
thinking.
so I can get some
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do
Um,
that.
It's I.
That was 2 words,
That's what I
buddy.
thought initially.
I.
Yeah, I was just, that's 2
I-
words.
All right.
What I'm
I-
hearing is mid. That's what I'm taking away from
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to say it, bro, because he's wearing the page right now. He was like, bro, can I disrespect you? Hold on a minute.
I know.
Man, what does one say about this?
I'm trying to I have an idea, but I need to think of the right word for it.
My one word is confusing.
One word is hard.
Yeah,
That's
okay, I
hard,
think
that's
my
hard.
word will be like scattered, I guess I'd say.
No, I would almost. I might be mistaken, but I feel like Ken doesn't typically go for color. He goes for more.
More
I guess
neutral, right?
Oh, Joe, you're much to the mic.
You know, let me stop. Let me.
No, you're good, you're
Oh, I'm
good.
putting them away. I'm putting them away. I knew it'd be risky. I knew it'd be risky.
Guys got to eat, bro.
So
I would
serious.
say just so much of this collection is around blue. A lot of blue. There's a pop of red in one of the looks. Actually 2 of the looks. And I feel like there's just a lot more color than we would have typically seen. There's more blue and red. He mostly sticks to those 2 is what I'm seeing, but it's different than I think 8, which was almost exclusively gray. Am I remembering that correctly?
It was
Gray and
quite neutral.
scale.
I'm
Bit
sorry.
of beige.
Was there a word in here, Alex? Was there a one word in here? I'm
I would
I'm
say
joking.
colorful.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
That was like
I'm
my
joking.
long.
What was it? Sorry.
I would say colorful.
Colorful.
Pro-
Okay.
Mm.
Colorful. All right. So now that we got all that out of the way, let's just start by because does everyone have the PDF that I linked in the chat?
Yeah,
All right,
yeah, I got it.
perfect.
Yeah.
So if there's any I could just open the floor. If there's anything that stands out that we want to just because I'm sure as soon as someone gives a number and starts talking about, we're all gonna have opinions on it, one way or another. So if there's anything standing out to anyone or because this collection came out such a long time ago, the lookbook at least, if you guys have been thinking about anything since then that you kind of wanted to just, I guess, get out your chest about it.
Straight away, the leather jacket in look 1 is fire, but it's probably super expensive.
Yeah. When I saw that for the first time, I was like, honestly, when the first look dropped, it got me really excited because I was like, this is probably one of the best leather jackets that I've seen. And I'm saying that from a perspective of me actually wearing a leather jacket because I don't really fuck with leather jackets like that. Like Joe said, I knew I would never be able to afford it, even if I sold my whole wardrobe, which wouldn't be worth. I just knew, bro, there's no way that's gonna be affordable. But it is sick. I really loved
Clean.
the whole cut and shape of it. Yeah, on the undershirt too. But yeah, the leather jacket was fire. I remember that being the first thing I was really wanting to see when he did the vlog thing about it.
There's a few leather pieces in this collection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't there?
It's
There's a new
4 or
bag, I
5.
think, too.
Yeah. Trying to find it.
Oh, is that bag new? I didn't realize the one when
it looks bigger,
On the,
right?
the long
Yeah.
strap,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's more structured also. It has a bottom.
But yeah, look number 9. He's got the leather hoodie in there. Again, I'm quite into leather jackets at the moment, so I'm quite interested in that. But at the same time, it's probably going to be really expensive.
Yeah, and it just doesn't look like it's just a leather hoodie, you know?
Yeah, it's not it's not a jacket. It really is just a hoodie.
Also, and I don't mean to compare it to what I'm about to compare it to in a a derogatory sense, but it does kind of look like a trash bag because you have that cinch at the waist.
Yeah,
No, I
there's
totally get there. No, definitely, totally.
There's this gathering of that happens right at the bottom, and when you look, it kind of changes the way it drapes, and so it quite literally looks a bit like a trash bag in terms of its sheen, color, almost the way it flows, at least
the
to the eye.
thinness,
Obviously,
yeah.
it's a very inanimate, it's a photo,
Yeah.
but you can kind of get that from this. I'm sure it's very nice leather. Um, I just think it's also generally very risky to do things like cinches on leather. I feel like
Yeah, I
leather
was
is
gonna say, now you brought that
very
up, I don't like that at all.
yeah. Well, it's like it's not like it's bad, but I think it's just it's different. I like that it's
Mm.
a bit experimental, but it's very risky to do something like gathering on a very static material such as leather because it doesn't want to really, I don't know. I feel like it looks best when it's really flat and flush.
Yeah.
Mm.
See,
To me, to your point about the trash bag, I thought it looked like latex, like the whole fit when I first looked at it.
yeah, a little
Like
Oh, I
a
bit.
see that. I see
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
like no Diddy, but like if you've been to like Berlin or something, those people, the freak clubs when they're walk, because you just see them when you walk around outside. That's the first thing I thought of, bro. It's like that's a crazy look, not in like a good way, crazy. Like in a that's a crazy look. Um, I don't know. I guess like between, but okay, but then again, let's bring this back to Joe's like leather jacket thing. Dude, this whole collection just has no cohesion whatsoever because the first look and 9, like 1 and 9, don't look like they're from the same collection to me. And
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
touching also on something in 9 that doesn't have to do with the materials, but like the double knee pants, like why are we doing double knee pants? Like, did we need double knee pants to come back? Like, it's just,
Wants to
I'm
bring it
s-
back,
And do we
bro.
need three different pairs all in different colors? Like
I'm just really confused because when we went from like 8, his first real, because 7 is technically a collection, but it was more of like a capsule where it was only like a few items. So like 8 being his first full collection lookbook, and then 9 being the second one. I just don't understand how we regressed in style, in my opinion. Again, this is
Mm.
definitely a very opinionated thing, but and this has nothing to do with the connection to the theme of the collection. I'm just saying the pieces themselves, right? The theme could have been anything but other than protein. It still wouldn't have made sense to me because it's just like from within the collection itself, the looks don't look like they match each other. And then from like a style progression from what we were known to see from Vuja Day, it doesn't make sense either. And I know he's said in the past that he doesn't want Vuja Day to ever have one design language that you can recognize throughout the years, which I think is low key kind of a not a lie, but like he's trying to like basically not shut the door on being able to be creative because obviously the Divisor series is something that comes back all the time that we know as Vuja Day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's a ton of other identifiers, which is a good thing, which a lot of brands can't do. That's a great thing. But it's like, how did we get here to like have look 8 and 9 in the same collection? Like it just doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me on
Yeah.
why we did all of this in one.
I'm surprised we haven't talked about look 7 when we're making this
7.
really insane contrast. I see look 7 to be the most I don't know if I want to say radical, but it's definitely in my opinion the most out
It's
of the block.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
it feels like this is very like Demna Balenciaga kind of like the hat reminds me one to one of like a lot of the designs Balenciaga has done with like their racer caps or their there's one I think with a blue swirl like design
I
on
put it
one of
in
their
my
hoodies.
edit in the first 20 minutes, so I totally I put the looks next to
Yeah.
each other in the edit because it's
Yeah, exactly.
but the difference
yeah.
is the hat's
Yeah.
not going to be functional. You're not going to be able to see through it. It's not going to have
Right.
the nose pads on it. It wasn't. It's just copying,
Yeah.
like to copy. It's not like
Right. Right.
that's what I have the issue with it. But like you said, it's like
Yeah.
where's the place for this in this
Well,
collection?
in it, yeah.
It just feels like with these I mean, okay, we see the exposed raw seams or like this uh irregular stitch that they did on their corduroys, or I'm sure they've done it on some other things. I'm not as well versed in Vuja Day as you guys are, maybe, but
They just call it the
um,
misdirect.
the
The
misdirected seam or whatever. But you also have these massive 3D cargos on the side, and it's
Mm.
they're jorts. They're just huge, and I feel like this is a very and with the hat covering the eyes. Remember, like we're not just talking about the clothes here. We're talking about the looks and how Ken styled these people to look and present them for this collection. And he covers the eyes, throws the hood on, big jorts. This is just like very Balenciaga to me, and it doesn't really feel like that's what this collection is going for. So I'm so confused as to why we have a graphic hat and a graphic tee and jorts and all this in one look. Yeah,
and it's
it's
not the
just
first
pretty.
time he's copied Balenciaga. Like he's definitely done it in the past, and with the tracksuit, it wasn't a collection, but like he made like the Balenciaga did like a collaboration with Adidas, the tracksuit thing, and he basically completely just ripped it. You could even make an argument that the first PLs that dropped. If you guys look up that styling that he did, it was just straight from Balenciaga. And I'm not saying that I'm hating on the fact that he's doing that because, well, one, Ken is like Pharrell, and I don't mean that literally. I'm just saying like in their respective field, they are not innovators. Like that's not why you would hire someone like
Mm.
that to be in charge of your brand. They are style gurus. They make clothes that they would wear that people want to wear as well because they like their style. So I'm not gonna come at Ken for not being creative with things because that's not why I liked Vuja Day in the first place. It wasn't because this was brand new stuff to my eyes. It was things that I had seen before that was repurposed in like this like more Japanese influenced way and then repackaged for like someone who lives in the West that could wear it. So that's why I liked it. But now I feel he's transitioned. Like he's no longer like Kanejima in 2020 or 2021. Like he's Vuja Day is like a brand, and we are making real collections with real themes and being very thoughtful about everything. So when you do something like this, it just makes me think there was no thought behind it. Like what was the thought behind it? What could it have possibly been to just have like random Balenciaga copy themes thrown into a lookbook with no cohesion with like anything else in the lookbook? Like if the whole lookbook had elements of Balenciaga and like the theme, I can't come up with off the top of my head right now, but had something to do with making fun of like big brands or something, that would make sense to me. But like the theme is protein. We took inspiration from firefighters, and I have a Denma Spring Summer 25 look like in here. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
At all.
Right.
Yeah, I think the theme being protein, I would really like to know like how some of these looks fit that with Ken's vision, I guess. Because I understand like how he talked about the graphic tees and he got inspiration from a fire truck and how like those people are buff or whatever and they like eat a lot of protein. But if protein in that idea is supposed to be the central concept of the collection, I I don't fully get why he chose to go so many different directions. Like you could view the leather set as protein because it comes from a cow and that's meat and that has protein.
Mm.
But like why are we mixing that with Balenciaga and graphic tees? Yeah, it's just kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's funny because I didn't understand why it's called protein, but I would have guessed it's called protein because there's a lot of distressing, and I mean, not every look does. Like the leather looks, obviously, it's not distressed leather, but the, Detroit looking jackets or these double knees with like distressing, there's a lot of fading and enzyme washing. And again, the key word there would be enzyme. So, like, I feel like there's some sort of degrading, used, environmentally destroyed aspect to this whole collection in some ways, right? But I think,
Yeah.
like you guys said, even if that was the narrative he was going for, it doesn't come through in a look like number 2, where he's wearing a thin windbreaker over a work shirt that is completely untouched and a pair of really nice straight leg chinos, right? Like it doesn't make any sense. So, yeah.
I think your point about enzyme was actually something I didn't think about, which kind of does tie into protein. But have you read his mission statement, his show notes for the collection for 10?
No, actually,
Let me
I haven't.
paraphrase it for you really quick. So
Yeah, yeah.
the two sentences that really just made no sense to me. So I'm paraphrasing. So protein, it is made up of the key structural elements of every single cell and influences virtually all chemical reactions in the body. In order to apply this theory to the core concept of the collection and evaluation and implementation of the role of proteins in our garments has been undertaken. And then skipping down to the second paragraph, he says, the collection is designed to be worn in a manner that exaggerates its proportions with distinctive vintage treatments that are in harmony with the needs of a typical wearer. I just feel like even from a philosophical standpoint of just trying to make, analogies, hyperbole, whatever you want to call it, like it just doesn't, the connection, like how did we go from talking about protein being so fundamental and the basis of everything, blah blah blah, and then now we're talking about treatments and how it's important to wear these clothes in different functions in different ways, which that within itself, how are we wearing things in different ways, or how are we repurposing? Is it because like the fanny pack thing, like is that the only thing that we repurpose in this whole collection? So it's like I don't understand that. Like that's supposed to be the guiding light for like
Yeah.
what you're looking at, you
Yeah.
know? So
It does feel a bit split.
that's the thing. But and then again, and not to be too redundant, because I already did talk about this in the first part, but you guys haven't heard me say it. So in 8 and 9, this is the other problem I'm having. He has very clear themes in 8. And in like this whole concept, I don't know, Alex, because you don't own anything from 8 or 9, but in 8, his whole mission thing was comfortability, blankets, bedding. He had a lot of inspiration from bedding, which made a whole ton of sense because he lined everything with Cupro. Like he lined all of his jackets with Cupro. It did feel like a blanket. You could wear it inside out. The seams were finished so well that you could wear the Ava inside out. The Adonis drapes over you, and it's super easy to put on with no buttons, just a snap. So it's like putting a duvet cover over you. It made sense, and it all looked like Vuja. And then in 9, it was like a quadruple entendre because it was called Ego. It looked like the stuff that he would want to wear. He named the items after actors and musicians that wore the motif in a movie or somewhere famous or infamous, and then named the item after them. And then it also looks like Vuja. So like the Ego made, and then he made the models method act in the photo shoot. So this is all tying into Ego. Where it's like, how did we get 10, bro? Like, what did we just do with the whole theme? And like, in like 8 and 10, everything, or 8 and 9, everything was cohesive. Like, even from a stylistic standpoint, if you take the theme out, because I know not everyone cares about that. Like, they just care about clothes. So it's just confusing on the trend.
Yeah. Well, I'll be the first to say that, like, it's not like I look at a genius like Yan Vanessa and I understand what they're going for all the time. Or like if it was 2000, the year 2000, and I was looking at one of McQueen's runway collections, like I'm gonna be really confused, and I might just be like one of those editors that like kind of downplayed it and said it was like horrible and like a atrocity because I just didn't understand it. And I like, although the little 2 sentences that you paraphrased for me, like they don't really line up with what he's going for, and it doesn't seem very consistent. I also generally would want to give him the benefit of the doubt because I don't like obsess over Ken or anything, but if he was pretty consistent and very intentional with the first 2, there's no reason that this wouldn't be the same. And if anything, it just might be a little more obscure and less surface level. Like he might not just be telling us directly what he's going for. He might himself be paraphrasing in these sentences what he kind of wants, or maybe kind of glazing over a lot of what it means to him personally. So I don't know. But when I look at these clothes, I mean, there's not necessarily a very clear theme, but it's not like it doesn't make any sense, period. If that
No,
makes any sense.
I totally agree. There's like 3 sub themes that are all very retapped into, which is fine. Like a collection doesn't have to have just one direction, obviously. But yeah, just super confused. Tristan, do you have anything about anything we just said or any of the looks that you want to talk about? By the way.
I don't know. It's just all like confusing. I feel like look 1 would probably fit protein itself, like his whole concept. I think everything else just like, I don't know, it's a little scattered for sure. Like I like the take on the Detroit jackets and leather, but everything else just does not make sense.
I do really like the Detroit jacket. I'm not a fan.
I wanted to talk about that stuff.
I'm not a fan of Carhartt, like for me personally, and I think it's getting really overplayed, but that's how trends are. And I'm not hating on trends because they're very necessary for fashion. But I thought they did that jacket really well, and I think it does fit the firefighter like work core blue collar thing. Yeah, it fits. It fits really well. The pricing, based off of the just ridiculous commonwear pricing of the reworked vintage jackets they did, that will yet to be seen what they price that jacket at. But I can imagine it's going to be over 1,000, which completely different conversation.
I think because it was similar to what's the jacket they released last collection with, like, it's basically the same jacket. The
Aphex parka,
the one with the isn't the lining like the exact same in the outer? I think it's the same like
probably
material, but I guess they do add the leather. But if I had to make a guess, I would say it'll be like 8, 9 for those. But maybe I'm completely off. But we'll see.
Do you remember how much the commonwear one was? The reworked Detroit jacket?
$3,000.
It's like $3K, right?
Yeah, $3K.
$3,000.
Yeah, because it was distressed in Giz's atelier.
Sold out.
So
Yeah,
my
yeah.
Bro,
God.
Touched by Giz himself.
That's
Giz be
I
smoking
genuinely,
on the prices, man.
I
He's
genuinely
the
don't think
ultimate.
I don't think a jacket should be ever that price. Like unless we're
Yeah.
working with something like what Laurel Piana uses. Like
or
I don't
Yeah.
Hermes or like
or
Like
Hermes,
some
even
right.
endangered
yeah,
species, like
If you're Hermes or if you're Laurel Piana, you can do that. If you're sourcing long staple like baby cashmere, I don't like fine, whatever. And if
yeah.
it's meant for, if it's meant to be the cream of the crop, but I don't even think a brand as luxurious as Dries Van Noten could justify making a fully cotton jacket with nothing revolutionary, nothing abstract, nothing like how could you put it at 3K?
Mm.
3K. That is insane.
that's
You know,
Bottega
Yeah.
prices, and Bottega prices are
it's
overpriced.
Bottega, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Like at this point we're entering the realm of making it expensive for like image, like how Bottega does.
right,
How
Yeah,
I
right,
mean,
yeah.
I don't even know if you could honestly sort of say like the row does it a bit.
definitely.
They're just
Definitely.
putting the price up there so the customer gets this feeling, and evokes that sort of
Mm.
superiority because you paid $3,000 on a rework Carhartt jacket.
I totally
Yeah.
agree.
I wanna yap about the Carhartt stuff and the pricing because I think that's where I'm
Go
most
for it.
opinionated.
Go for
Yeah.
it.
So I feel like we've just touched on it quite well. And then I feel like especially when you're buying into these brands where it is at a higher price point, a lot of the times, like say I'm explaining to someone, oh, you spent like how much on this jacket? I'm like, oh, but like the fabric's good, great stitching, blah blah blah. It'll last you a long time, and you're sort of paying to buy into that brand aesthetic. But I think the issue when you do brands as sort of workwear and sort of reimagining Carhartt and similar brands is I've got a vintage Carhartt jacket from like I think the 80s or something, and what that's lasted like 60 years. So you can't then use the justification of, oh, but you're buying for the quality, like it'll last you a long time, because the original piece already does that. And then sort of in turn, it's like I really, really, really like the Detroit jacket and the double knee pants and stuff he's done. But then sort of apart from the distressing and like the minor details, like what new is it bringing to the table to then sort of justify the price of it? And I think it's a whole nother discussion, which I don't think I'm too like well versed into
So
talk about too much. But
just to do the devil's advocate, because there's going to be the kid in the
yeah,
comment section that's going to counter your point with like, well, there's the Denmas of the world who they literally make like intended jokes about like the history of the DHL shirt, the one that blew up
mm-mm.
Denma in the first place was because he worked. I believe it was like he worked for DHL or something and couldn't afford like a luxurious T-shirt, so he printed it on a T-shirt and made it luxurious or whatever. So I guess the argument's going to be like maybe Ken is trying to luxurize like workwear and like that's why
Yeah,
it's expensive, but I just don't see it, especially with how he
yeah,
designs. I don't see that being like a thing. I think basically at the end of the day, I think it's because he can get away with it. It's gonna sell out, people are gonna
yeah,
buy
of
it.
course.
Yeah.
And it's
Workwear is
just buying
super
into the
trendy.
brand aesthetic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so but I feel
it's
like
just like I'm going back to what I said. Um, like I can get my car jacket. It looks exactly the same as what he made. And I basically to
Yeah.
summarize, it's just like why should I buy this over that? Like if money was an issue, I'd buy it. I love it. I think the double knee pants, like the stitching details on them. Sorry, I ended up on the Instagram, so I don't know what even look I'm looking at now.
oh, it's fine.
But
I
yeah, like the stitching on the pants, the details is so sick. But again, it's like as the working man, it's like I ain't gonna buy that, bro. And
Yeah.
yeah, and especially with this argument, it really only applies to the Carhartt stuff. So but yeah, that's how to summarize it. It's just like what why should I buy it?
Yeah. Especially
Yeah.
how already accessible it is. Like you can easily find
Mm,
this in the market
exactly.
for a very low price. So but yeah, either way, it's gonna be sold out.
I think that's a good point though, because you said like it's easily accessible. I feel like the earlier VD stuff you couldn't find. That's why, at least for me, in my very small viewpoint on fashion, because I hadn't been exposed to a lot of brands. I might have a different opinion now if I were to like comprehensively look at 7, 8, and 9. But like for the reason why I sold a lot of VD as well, like Joe did. But the reason why I didn't sell the Enzo was because still to this day, with even all of the brands that I'm exposed to and all the brands that I'm gonna be more exposed to, I couldn't find a rain jacket that I liked that was cool, that was functional, that had nice materials in it, that had an interesting design, the multiple ways to wear it. I felt like I couldn't get that anywhere else. Like I'm surrounded by so many stockists of Valence and like the best Gorp core brands that you could find, and still nothing hit that perfect mix of like Uniqlo wearability and then like a small Japanese brand put together. And touching on the like Uniqlo just really quick, I'm not gonna go on a huge tangent, but like he did make jackets that just look like Uniqlo jackets in this collection. So it's like I don't understand how that looks like Vuja. Like if I were to give you guys a number, it's like 2 and 3 back to back. It's just like how it. I don't understand how that's Vuja. That could be Muji, that could be Uniqlo, that could be like anything. And I think the reason why a lot of people, and this is me projecting obviously because I can't confirm this, but a lot of people really fell in love with Vuja, not Ken, but Vuja around that 8 time, was because it was so different than everything, especially in the influencer, like independent brand owner space. And it was so strong. Like they had such a strong identity. Like they had made multiple collections before that leading up to it when they really hadn't. They were just kind of dropping clothes here and there. So that's my confusion on like these either these workwear pieces or like these Uniqlo pieces. I can name a brand or like an aesthetic to it, and it's just like it's just lost in like how is this Vuja to me? That's the biggest issue that I have with them.
Wait, just so I'm on the same page, the Enzo is the rain jacket that's like with the asymmetrical zip.
Exactly. Yeah. I have there's some the 2 versions are basically the same thing. I think they changed the shoulder shape slightly in the 9 one. They made it more triangular.
They did the 9 one as well?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I have. Is the 9 one. The original one was 8. So he just
the 8 one,
yeah, which I really like. I really enjoy that because I'm someone who doesn't really get into rainwear. I don't really like rain jackets at all. I've never found one that I liked, and I was like a brand, or I trained people in how to sell like Patagonia and like North Face and like all the technical brands that were partnered with Gore-Tex and Arc'teryx. So like I'm very familiar with models of rain jackets. I still have never found one that was like fit my style perfectly. And that's how I am gonna enjoy Vuja Day like going forward. That's how I should have been enjoying Vuja Day like the entire time. But again, someone who's super into fashion, who has no bearings at all, has a super cool like trendy hole in the wall thing that you feel like you're part of this like community of. So you're gonna go crazy on everything. But I feel like this was the first time that I'm looking at things. I'm just like I don't have like the urge to buy any of it because it doesn't remind me of like why I want to buy and wear this brand.
Yeah. I really like what you said about the rain jacket kind of being emblematic, I guess you could say, of why Vuja had so much had so much success in past 2 or 3 collections. It kind of fit into that niche. They were doing stuff that was really different. Because when I think about rain jackets, right, people go to like the big Gore-Tex brands, big DWR users like Arc'teryx, right, which is just, I mean, you could argue it's pure function with a logo, right? They do the thing that they need to do. They're really great for that specific niche, and then they have a logo on it so it's identifiable to them. Or if you looked at something like Acronym, where you go kind of full force into crazy utility, crazy functionality, but it's also not as I wouldn't want to say wearable because that's kind of a
buzzword, but I get it. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying for sure.
Yeah. But Acronym is just, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of 3D cargo pockets. There's a lot of asymmetrical zipping, and there's just a lot of Velcro too. And they're expensive. They're really, really expensive, just like Vuja. But if you looked at this rain jacket, the Enzo, that's one of those pieces that actually stands out a lot to me that I can identify, because I think just like probably for the same reason that you really like it, Kim, it's very distinct. It's not something you really see. And especially in a material you don't typically see something like this from, right? It's really easy to do something like this with cotton or with polyester or a polyamide blend, but it's a lot harder to do something with Gore-Tex, and it's more expensive and risky. So I feel like that on a rain jacket looks really great, and I think that's why it had success. But to your point, I don't think you see that in this collection. We're seeing on look 6 just a rebranded chinchilla from Patagonia. If you look at I mean, I already talked about look 7 with like the Balenciaga like features, right? And I talked about 9 looks kind of not like maybe a little bit like a trash bag. And again, we just talked about Carhartt, so it just feels like we're doing more of the same. There's less of that unique pull that Vuja Day typically expresses in their collections, and so I think that's probably its main falling point here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of what I was thinking initially. Because you look at something like a repro brand, like a reproduction brand that makes like vintage garments reimagined. You could say something like Taiga Takahashi, you could say Sugarcane, all those like selvage denim, heritage style brands. And their view on garments is to make these like reproductions of old things to the T, and it's not necessarily functional. And it's almost like Vuja is doing that, but that's not their goal. They're redoing the Carhartt, they're redoing the Patagonia, um, and what's their purpose in doing it is sort of what I have to think. Like that's not why I buy Vuja Day clothes. I try to buy the items that you're not really gonna see elsewhere. So that's like the reason. When I see this Carhartt jacket, I'm not thinking, or personally, I'm not thinking like, oh wow, this Carhartt jacket will be so much nicer and so much better than a normal Carhartt jacket. It's essentially the like a Vuja Day reproduction, which I don't know why I would personally want that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, it's like, why would you favor that over something like Visvim, right? Like something
Exactly.
Yeah.
that's kind of all about doing
The whole
American,
purpose is, yeah,
right? Well, it's so funny. It's like very coincidental because I was at a bookstore earlier today with Lyra, and I got a book that kind of talks about how Japan in many ways does American style clothing better than America.
yeah.
And I think
Is
that's
it
that essence
the
that
Amatora book?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's
I wrote my
exactly
dissertation
I
on
don't-
that book.
Yeah, I don't
That's
have it on me
crazy.
right
What
now,
the
but
hell?
Where is it?
that's so funny that you know exactly what I'm talking about. I read like a few pages of it, and like I just flipped through it, and I was like, wow, this
This
is
one
like
is.
something. Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
Some nerds in here. Let's go.
I know that book. I know that book.
Let's
I
go.
don't have that. I might have a different cover, but I'm sure like the text is pretty similar.
Yeah,
But
it's a good book.
yeah, I mean, I was reading about that, and I was like, wow, that just seems really interesting. I want to learn more about that. Oh yeah, it's this one. It has the beams flannel on the front, and it has, I believe these are Visvim back buckles. But
I need to read
yeah,
that.
I
I need
mean,
to add that to the book list. That looks interesting. I have not read that.
Amateur, yeah.
So.
This one is called "How Japan Saved American Style," which
Yeah, it's the
you know,
same one.
yeah, what's a better title than that, right? But remember, Ken is someone who lives in Japan. Did he grow up in Japan? I don't know.
He went to
how.
school. This is wow. This is gonna sound so dick right.
Yeah, I
Bro,
don't
let me
He
let me ask the
he went to school
let me
in
ask the
America.
Discord, bro. They know everything.
In America, he went to an international high school and college. I'm pretty sure. College for sure.
Yeah.
High school, not
Yeah.
100% sure on, but spent a
Yeah.
lot of time in America,
It's-
obviously, with the accent.
We could
you
ask the
tell.
Discord for some
Yeah,
photos from his time
guys.
at high school.
They'd be able to tell you,
What did
yeah.
Ken used to eat
please.
for lunch, guys?
Please don't
Yeah.
encourage that Discord on this channel, bro. I don't want to be associated with
Okay.
those motherfuckers.
Hey, we didn't name it.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I love the Discord.
But the thing is with Ken, like he's not rooted. I mean, maybe some people are gonna flame me. He's not rooted in heritage, right? He didn't grow up
Yeah.
milling on Okayama looms.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
he didn't live through this. He didn't like see the influence of Japanese like obsession with American culture and vice versa through the 70s and 80s. He didn't take all those influences and source it into his clothes. So why should we be buying clothes that are all about that? They're all about reproduction. Why should we be buying into that, especially at the price point that he puts it at? If it was like
Yeah.
people will shell out thousands of dollars for capital, right? Because that's what it's all about.
You know,
you're paying for heritage and a lot of that expert craftsmanship and originality and whatnot. So I don't see why. I don't know.
crazy
the
point
Carhartt.
you just made about
Yeah.
the heritage thing. that is the entire reason why I made my first purchase in VD with the
Oh,
kimono
really?
dyed flared, is because he actually made me believe that. Like, because he did the whole description with the Okinawa like
Oh yeah.
dyeing process. He had the B-roll pictures of them like dyeing
Yeah.
it, the whole history behind like how like why kimono dyeing is so expensive and labor intensive,
Mhm.
and it made me feel connected to that. That's literally why I bought
Yeah.
that first piece. So to have the lack of that is exactly why I'm like,
Yeah.
why in 10 did we go away from that?
Yeah. It's also, well, it also brings up a good point. Like, who? It's not like we're trying to make an exclusive club here. Like, who is allowed to make these kinds of clothes? Who is? I'm not trying to ban or say that people should be banned from making, a zip up,
Yeah, yeah.
thick cotton jacket because it's reminiscent of Carhartt, which is an American heritage, like whatever. But there should be some sort of boundary that is set about who can make certain garments and why. I think it would be a little out of place if someone who went to Central St. Martin's as a European born, European raised designer started making stuff with exclusively like Mandarin collars or very like Chinese focused accents, etc. So I don't know why.
Going like the appropriation route, kind of. Is that what you're kind of saying
Yeah,
a
I
bit?
feel like there should be some sort of line. I'm not trying to be all like PC,
No, I
but
mean
I
it's your
feel like,
opinion, bro. Bring it. So it's an
I mean,
opinion
end
that
of the
someone
day,
else might not
right?
have.
Like I feel like if we go down the route of like, okay, fashion is an expression of like, ourselves and where we're from, and it's we can draw influences from here or there, but I feel like if you kind of brand something as such, like if you brand it all about Mandarin collars or all about China, obviously this is not the example that we're seeing in Vuja Day, but I feel like there's something inherently wrong with that. So I don't know.
The other
Anyways,
problem I have with this collection is, and I'll get into positives. Like I don't want this to be like a negative video, but I mean it's my opinion, and I think predominantly I have a negative viewpoint on 10, comparing it to the other two, and that's obviously coming from someone who fucking likes this brand enough to buy shit from it, start a YouTube channel,
yeah,
review it. So it's like it is what it is. People are gonna hate. I don't care. Look 10, this is a nothing sandwich. Like both the top and the bottom, like this is a nothing sandwich. And what I mean by that is like, why did this doesn't fit into the theme? This doesn't fit into Vuja. This, who wants this? Like, why did we make this? And when Ken makes clothes, one of the things that I think got me so into like Vuja Day, especially in 8 and 9, every look mattered. Like every look you were looking for something to buy, because it was just like when they dropped it on
Yeah.
Instagram, you're like, you couldn't wait for the next one. You couldn't wait for the next one. I dead ass when this after the first 3 looks, bro, I couldn't care less. Like I was like, I'll just look at it when it comes out. Why do you think it took so long to make this video? Because I just didn't care enough to make it. I remember Joe asked me on Instagram, or I don't know if it was Joe or someone was asking me like, yo, are we gonna shoot it? I'm like, to myself, I was like, yeah, I don't really know if I want to make it, but that's because I didn't have anything to say about it besides I just don't like it, and I was like, there's no point in making a video on something if my only opinion is, oh, I just don't like it, to wear it. But I was able to really think about why I didn't like it. So, and this is another reason, is because 10 is just, what is that? Like, why was
Well,
it?
to be fair, if you want to reach to go for this protein, because I feel like for this look you can make that reach, like, oh, it's denim on denim. That's a little bit of Americana, and when you think Americana, maybe you think like farmers or like cowboys or something super like American like that. You can make that connection to protein, like, oh, these people they're working hard, they need their protein. But I think there are definitely looks in the collection that you just can't reach to make that like the look with the red sweats and like the worker jacket. I'm not sure what number it is, but if somebody figures that out,
17.
17.
just
Yeah.
like, where does that fit into protein at all?
Also, why are we making
couldn't,
sweatpants?
like,
Even if it does follow,
yeah,
even if it was like,
yeah,
there was this huge thing that I said, this big analogy that I made that I thought was really cool that he could have done with 10, because I hate people who will just complain about something without giving their own like solutions to the problem. So my whole first 20 minutes was like, why do I not like this theme? And then I gave options of what he could have done differently. So one of the things that I was saying was like, he could have made some of the clothes out of casein, out of milk fibers, which then you get away with a lot. Like it doesn't have to be motifed as anything to do with protein, athleisure, or workwear. But because it's made of literal milk proteins or whatever,
yeah,
then you get away with it. But it's like, even if these red sweatpants were made of 100% milk fiber. Why did we make sweatpants in this collection? Like, it just, I don't get that. I guess it's athleisure because people go to the gym in sweats. But then it's like you're stuck in this loop because it's like, but we didn't do athleisure in this lookbook. We did Carhartt and we did this and we did that and we did that. So it's like maybe again, trying to play devil's advocate, is he trying to like have multiple themes in one thing and then we get a little bit of everything, but it just comes across as like disordered and like confusing. And I'm really interested actually to see what people comment, because I know all of you kind of have the same opinion, but there's a lot of people who enjoy Vuja. Even the people who are in their Vuja stage of like I was in 8 and 9 and just everything was amazing and I want to buy everything. I wonder like what those people think about this, because it's genuinely confusing to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Toby said, I hate this is going in the thumbnail. So like this is my least favorite, like confused, like why what am I looking at? Like look at this whole
Yeah.
collection.
Like I appreciate how he's using this like pretty unique motif in the collection. And I think it's cool that he's trying to do multiple motifs based off this central idea. But as you said, the way it comes off is just it's scattered. It almost feels a little lazy, because why are we just putting all these different like ideas into this one theme? Why can't we, sort of separate it somehow? But it, I think it's a cool concept, but I think the way it's done doesn't appeal to really anyone.
I mean, it's gonna appeal to someone because this shit's gonna sell out. Well, half of it will. The other half will
Well,
sit, but
well, like if those people thought about the collection, they
there's
had
your
some
problem.
deep,
There's your problem. The
thought-provoking,
thinking was
like
the key word.
I just think like it's unnecessary the way it was done.
My second least favorite. This actually might just be tied for first worst fit, was 5. I just don't understand.
5.
Because to Joe's point, I don't know if I'm sounding hypocritical at certain points I've made because I've been yapping a lot, but like the Carhartt stuff, it's not that I don't like it. Like I don't think it's ugly. Like objectively, I'm not looking at him like, oh my god, this is terrible. I think what he did with the Carhartt jacket is very Vuja, but the problem is this doesn't make sense in the entire collection itself. And the price point, that's probably going to be ridiculously overpriced for what it is. And I think he could have made it more Vuja focused, but like that like whole motif thing, I'm not like hating on the idea of it. But then when we come to 5, like this workwear jacket with like this desert sand like styling, it's just the first thing that I think of, which is probably why I hate it so much, is that it reminds me of my Instagram reel feed. But like, you know what I mean? With like the trendy outfit. And again, this is a whole different topic for a different video, but if I don't touch on it right now, I'm gonna get flamed. I don't care how other people dress. It's not like I'm telling you if you look like this on Instagram that you have less style than me, that I'm superior to you. The problem I have with people who dress like this is that a lot of them don't know why they're dressing this way. They're just following a crowd because they want to fit in, they want to be featured on these pages, they want to be belong to this group, which isn't inherently a bad thing. But when you are spending an exorbitant amount of money on fashion and all of your content that you're consuming is fashion and all of your friends talk about fashion, you are a hobbyist. Okay, so like this is your hobby. And again, not telling you how to enjoy something, but it's like I just really appreciate people who, when I look at them or when they talk to me about it, I can tell like, yes, you're wearing this because you want to wear this and this is what you enjoy. So with Vuja Day, bring this back to this lookbook, the whole thing with Vuja Day, and I feel like a lot of people, the reason why like the community itself really liked Vuja Day is because it is very different from the social media like recycled like 10 trendy fits every season. But this is kind of playing into that whole thing, which it might sell well. It might sell really well because of that exact reason. Maybe he's trying to capitalize on Instagram fashion, but then change the theme and make fun of it like a Denma. Then that I would have liked that actually. I wouldn't have bought any of the pieces, but it would have been funny. It would have been a good like, oh my god, like that's genius. Like he's making fun of like this uncultured culture of Instagram fashion, and we're gonna make Vuja Day versions of the clothes. But that's not what happened. So yeah, 5 is confusing to me as well.
On a positive note, like really simple, I really like the graphic tees.
You do. I'm not a graphic tee guy, but I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and critique a graphic tee. I feel like it's so like
pretty simple take, but yeah, I think as I've got back into my like vintage Americana stuff, I like quite like playful. Like I think on the back it says like keep back.
200 feet away from a
Yeah, I
fire
kind of,
truck,
Mm.
which is
I kind of
interesting.
like, yeah, I like stuff like that. So, yeah, on like a positive, really basic note, I really like the graphic tee. If the price is right, I'll probably grab it as well.
Mm.
I appreciate the like motif they brought in with the fire. I think that's an interesting perspective on protein, and I
Mm.
like that. So
Which one?
the graphic tees,
Oh,
the what do they say, like VDNY? I'm
PDMY,
probably
yeah.
wrong. Okay, does it? And on the back it says, "Please keep back 200 feet away." And that's because that's like what they have on the back of fire trucks, and firemen are buff, and that connects to protein. I think that's an interesting way to look at it.
Doing this with like their old graphics, like the DVD thing, or like their old graphics. So I
Oh
think that
yeah,
was a
like
nice
they
touch.
reimagine, yeah.
I'm not a whole graphics person, but I think that was a nice touch to like kind of bring that back.
Yeah.
I remember when he leaked. Leak is like a not the word I'm looking for, but
The
when
VD leaks.
when he teased, that's the word I'm looking for. When he teased that checkered shirt, the brown and
The
like
penalty, yeah.
yeah. Well, it's is it
Which
Pendleton because it's a
which one was
cashmere?
that?
I thought they had that
Okay, that's the thing.
thing on the
Unless Pendleton makes cashmere as well, which they might, but they're usually known for Pendleton wool that go into flannels like the Margiela flannels and everything.
yeah.
I thought this collection was going in a whole different direction because I remember on the Tulip account when he teased the Pendleton patch, like I was super excited when I saw that shirt, but then seeing how it was like, aside from look one, because look one is fire. Like I like look one. Again, like on a positive note, I would never wear the pants, but I like the look, like itself. It's very VD. It makes sense. I did not think we were going this direction because it's like, how is this look here when we have something like the 5 look or like the Balenciaga 7 look like Alex was talking about. It just feels like very disconjointed. But just skimming it really quick, just again to give like Joe was saying on a more positive note, I do like look 1 a lot. I do like look 6 a lot. I know you said that looked like a Patagonia uh half zip, which I totally agree with. I think like the leather trimmings and the magnets are just enough for me to like be like, okay, I like this, and maybe I would like it less if it wasn't in this fit. But I think 6 is like such a VD look. The styling, the bag, the glasses, the shoes, the Dylan. I think those are the Dylan derbies from the row. Like that whole look was fire to me. And I wish the
Yeah.
whole collection was like that. You know.
Mm.
It almost looks like a
I
more
want to
playful
shout
8.
out look 16. Shout out look 16.
16. All right.
16.
So that's my favorite. I think it was really well done.
Yeah, 16.
Yeah, do we all have a favorite look?
Oh, let's browse. Let's
Oh.
browse.
16.
Mine would.
Toby, Lyra thinks the look 16 shorts look like they're from TikTok shop.
That's
But they're a
crazy.
Yoji. What you know about them being a Yoji
Yeah, what you know
Yamamoto
about them being
collab?
Yoji, bro?
Yoji.
Those are Yoji.
No, I think she was talking about the blue ones.
Yoji sample, bro.
Oh, what blue pants? That's not 16.
Or the look 7, the one with the Balenciaga looking cap or whatever.
7. Yeah.
I
Lyra
could
wanted-
see that.
Yeah.
I think I have to go with
Um,
look 1, to be honest. Just
Look one.
yeah, look 1.
And I feel like there's other looks. Like 15 isn't super interesting, but it does look like a VD lookbook kind of style. Oh my god, how did we not talk about 14, bro? I forgot about 14,
Oh,
dog.
four-
What is
14
that,
is-
bro?
14 just 5, but longer, bro.
Dude, it's so troll, bro.
Bro extended it.
It's winter 5.
It's
Looking at it.
edgy construction worker, bro.
I really like 21. Just
21.
because going back to that that fireman theme, I feel like he's got the fireman tee underneath, I think is that their Carhartt jacket or something else? Carhartt jacket.
It's a
red
shirt.
pants. Is it a shirt? Let me zoom in.
It
Oh,
is.
yeah.
It's a very
shirt.
Ken
I think it
style
has
piece.
the
Yeah.
magnets in it.
The shirt, I guess that's hoodie around the waist. But the way he sort of styled it, it looks like kind of overalls, or as if the firemen's look like pulling on their uniform that's half on.
Dude, I like.
So
Yeah, that's fire. Yeah.
I really like this look and how he styled it. I think it's great.
That's a good
I like how you
shout.
pointed out that I didn't think about the way it looks like a fireman pulling on his like
Yeah,
suit.
it looks like One Piece. It's
That's
really
really
cool.
cool actually. With
Mm,
the hoodie going down like that.
yeah,
That's interesting.
and then I like look 11 because I'd wear the top half and I'd probably just wear blue jeans. Yeah, like just a real simple opinion on that one.
Yeah, I think going through it again, I think 6 really is just like
Let's
my
see.
favorite, and then whichever numbers Toby's was, because it's basically the same thing but different fonts. So like I also like that one too
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot.
I
I
think
really like
6 would
the
look
way
so
the back.
clean.
Yeah.
I think 6 would look so clean with like maybe the cargos, like the jorts.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's really cool. I was watching back when I was making this beginning part of my video. I didn't realize that the pockets on the cargos are magnets. They didn't do buttons. They put magnets on the flap of the cargo pocket on the divisor shorts, which is like a really cool way of using magnets. Everyone
The
knows like
double VD design language.
another question I guess I have for everyone. Oh, but while we're talking about this, Alex, if you want, if you have you seen 8 and 9 the lookbooks before? Because everyone else,
Yeah.
okay.
Have
Because
I-
one of my questions was going to be like comparing this to like 8 and 9, stylistically and everything. But what I was going to ask first was, is anyone planning on buying anything from this collection? Like, is there something that like you feel like you do need to have from this, or even inspired you to find a similar alternative or something? Because I feel like sometimes that's even just as important. If you're not going to buy the exact item, you see something, gives you inspiration for like either a specific motif or like a genre of clothing. Because I feel like a lot of times in my earlier
Mm.
style progression, Vuja Day lookbooks did that for me. Is there anything in here that
Mm.
was like,
I think I said before, I'll get the T, the VDNY T, but like
did
I
that?
can probably just
Oh, I
find
was gonna
the
spoil.
I
Never
can probably
mind.
just find the
I was about to spoil.
NY.
I was gonna say getting that and wearing it in a certain place would be fire. No pun intended. Well, that was a quadruple entendre, bro. That was crazy. Graphic team wearing it on a certain
yeah.
trip would be fire, bro.
Group graphic tee.
Wait. Wait.
shit.
So you're cooking. Hold on. Maybe we are buying something from this collection, guys. We'll have to see the price.
Yeah.
I'm not
Oh,
dropping
wait,
150 on a graphic tee.
Yeah.
We all just take a pic, just like from
And then-
back.
Let's go.
Just like
Tristan, when's the
But
last time
yeah,
you
I-
bought something
I'd
from
love that,
VD?
maybe.
What was like your last purchase from VD, by the way?
probably the Amalia denim.
Oh, you got
I still have them.
the black jet.
Yeah, just the black pair. But I think, yeah, it really sits weird. Sizing's a bit off. It's like getting to me, bro. I'm
Dude,
like, fuck.
The
I might
sizing,
just sell these joints, bro.
dude. Vuja
It
Day
gets
sizing
in
could be
your
its own
head
video.
each time you see them. Like
I think to me, like the waist is fine. Like the high rise, I prefer high rise, like or like high waisted bottoms. But I think it's the length. I'm like a 5'9" short king, bro. But like
yeah, me
the
too.
small
Dude,
lengths,
they're
like
so long,
it's so long, dude.
and you can't
And
really
And
tailor
it's
them.
not something you want to ham. It like
Yeah,
Yeah, especially like keeping the design integrity. Like that's so hard to tell. Like a tailor, like, hey, can you like
yeah,
keep this shit?
keep
I would
and
say
with
And
the
also, like-
like seam running down the middle in the back, like
Yeah, exactly.
it's complicated.
And especially like I don't really like heel bite these days. I have like a few pants, but like heel bite, especially in like the rainy city, it's like not
Mm.
ideal.
Yeah.
you don't have a bite fetish like Owen.
Yo.
Nah.
I
think
messaged
that's
him
why
about
I
that.
put
It was
off,
so funny. It's so funny. The heel bite
I put
It's
off
collection.
a
funny
lot of
how all the creators have their like fetishes. Like Small G has the like studs, bro.
Oh, in the
Mhm.
track, dude.
He
Yeah.
mess with studs in the track jackets. Yeah.
Track jackets, bro.
Yeah.
He's always buying those.
Mm.
But I think I would give it a chance for like maybe the Amalia or not the Amalia, but like the divisor cargo shorts because
I think those are like a cool like take
Those
on
are
a
cool.
on a cargo short, and obviously very VD esque. I don't
Yeah.
know.
it seems a lot more practical than the jeans.
Yeah, because it's not gonna drag on the ground.
Yeah.
I think with cargos, one of the things I hate about cargos typically with shorts is like they look really compact, especially around the pocket. So on this, I like how long like they sit and like the
Mm.
pockets are really stretched out, whereas that chunky, more compact pocket like gives off like a technical vibe that I just don't like most of the time. But I do like these a lot. I've just owned a lot of Divisor series things from Vuja Day, and I never keep them. So it's just like I think from this isn't, again, this isn't coming from like I think it's like a trash item perspective. It's more of just personal style. I just don't think whenever I wear it, it feels like I I have like that feeling like I'm not comfortable in it, if that makes sense. But I like looking
Yeah.
at it at other people
Yeah,
Yeah.
that wear it.
that's like why I
Yeah.
sold mine as
Yeah.
well, because I found that one, I actually like I really don't like high rise pants. Mainly because I cycle everywhere and it's mad uncomfortable, bro.
Yeah, I bet, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then two, living in London, like it's a shithole here. So I'm really like trying to have like heel drag and like stepping in puddles
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff. That's sort of why I sold all my denim, and I think that's also why not my interest, but my urge to buy stuff from VD has declined a bit because I think when you're in that style, the pants are like so important. And one thing that VD's popular is their denim and their pants. And then sort of going away from wanting them, I'm not like yeah, I'm just not too sold on like any of the bottoms because I know they'll sort of have the same design elements.
I really fuck with your guest Visbom shoe pant interaction, by the way. That shit's fire.
Bro,
Actually.
the
That's
guess
just
USA is up and
that's
coming,
just
man. They need to
fire.
sponsor me. Bro, I'm repping it right now, USA.
Hey.
Yeah.
This is actually fire.
Yeah.
I'll add on to the point about the pants. The first 4 things I got from Vuja Day were pants.
Mm,
So I was a big, VD pant enjoyer. Um,
Oh yeah, same. Yeah, all pants for me
and
too.
I will I have zero urge to even consider buying a single pair of pants from this drop from a stylistic perspective. And that makes me think this collection is kind of straying away from where they were going before in terms of like the customer. Like it feels like this is definitely catering towards the explore page in a way.
yeah.
Not completely, but in comparison to what they were doing before.
I totally agree, especially with like again like that camo on camo look. I will say out of all the double knee pants, three the fit three the double knee pants in fit three, I think the distressing actually looks good, like in terms of like how a Balenciaga would do it. Again, my problem is just that fact that it exists in this collection, and it being double knee. But the way that they like did it, I actually think it's much better than a lot of these similar competitor type brands who just distress things.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna name names because I'm gonna get flamed, but like everyone knows who the fuck I'm talking about with that nail filer, which was so troll. And then taxing like $1,000 because you distressed it in the atelier. But yeah, I actually do like how they did that with those pants. But like you're saying with the silhouette in themselves, it is so different from even 9 was pretty different than 8 in terms of pants, but you could kind of see how it would be the same type of customer. But this one, it's like, yeah, I don't really know who they're marketed towards besides an Explorer page feed because that's literally
Yeah.
what it just reminds me of.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And everyone's gonna think I'm saying that in a derogatory way again. I'm just gonna have to say this 10,000 times. I'm saying it in the perspective of a Vuja Day customer because I feel like
Yeah.
that person is not an I don't want to use the word OG as in like a superiority way, but like if you've been buying from VD for a while, I feel like you're not that person. You're not that customer. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
aesthetic wise. And then I guess talking about 8 and 9, comparing this to 8 and 9, is there any like obviously we have been kind of negative, but like positive growth from 8 and 9 that they've done in 10 that was new that you want to see them do more of in the next collections? Because obviously, like this is just the start of Vuja Day. Like, yeah, they had a great 8, they had a great 9, and like I'm very indifferent about 10, but like this is their third collection ever. Like, a lot of big fashion houses don't even have this good of like runs with their first few collections with identity
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So was there anything from 10 that was like new to you for VD and would like to see them like kind of explore on or expand upon in the future?
I think
I
Alex, you touched on it earlier. But I do like their use of color. Like they're starting to use a bit more color. He did in the last collection, but it seems a bit more here. But he hasn't gone beyond just red and blue. But I do appreciate more color, and it'd be interesting to see if he branches out of red and blue like in the future.
That was actually a really good point that Alex made too earlier because I did not realize it was just red and blue until he said it.
Yeah,
I was like,
it's
holy
true.
shit, it really is just red and blue, different shades.
well I like the way he treated the central like motif. I think it's really creative, some of these takes on protein. I think I'd love to see that done in a different way, but that general idea I really, really, really like.
Mm-hmm. I do think Ken is really good at taking like obscure things and making them stylish. Like the way he I wish he posted on Tulip more, man. That's such a good like
It's a
art
good account.
inspo page.
Yeah,
Like the
it's like
funky ways he promotes the clothes that he's dropping, where he'll like fold them up and tie them in a belt and hang it on something. Like that's super cool.
Mm.
Obviously, he probably gets a lot of inspo from Kata, his style friend, who's like super weird
Mm.
and wonky if you follow him as well. But they have like very interesting ways to take like they merge like everyday items like oranges or something and like merge it into like just art in general. So that's why when I heard protein, like that was like such an interesting thing to do. I just feel like there was so much more creative ways he could have gone about it. But I do like the idea that we're going from like betting to like ego to like protein. Like it's very, obscure or things that you wouldn't
Mm.
typically see, especially in this kind of like market, like the space that he's occupying. I feel like that's another thing we always need to take into account too, is like what like his scale versus like
Yeah.
a Bottega or like a Chanel or whatever. So yeah, I do really like the creativity with that as well. But like Toby said, it's just I don't really understand the execution of it. But
Yeah.
that's actually a good one. I'd probably say that too.
I have something in comparison to 8 and then 9 and now we're looking at 10. Um, every designer, I don't make my own clothes, but everyone has a different training and they get into it in a different way, right? And Ken, in his 8 and 9 collections, he doesn't really do much with patterns and he doesn't do much with texture difference besides using different fabrics. So you look at 8 and it's almost every piece, there's no graphic, right? There's
Mm.
no there might be like a pocket or two, but nothing out of the ordinary. And he does more stuff with shapes, and there are like the exposed seams on some of those pants that I think are pretty cool. But you look at 9, and you start to see a little bit more of that, and then 10, I think we're starting to experiment a lot more with artificial texture. So distressing, whether it's an enzyme wash or I don't care if he's using a file at an atelier to do the whole thing, but no, he's he's starting to do that a lot more. And honestly, I would dare I say it's almost more professional in the way that he's executing it because at the end of the day, the lookbook 8, for example, even though these clothes I think they're simple, they go with everything. They're also, like I said, very simple. There's not a lot going on. And he styled them very well, but they're at the end of the day just blank jackets and blank shirts and blank pants. And I think he's just branching out a little here, honestly. Like you look at look 11 with the jacket over the hoodie and then these distressed double knees. That's not something that Ken's ever done before, or at least I don't think. And you know what, whether or not he did a good job of it, that's up for public opinion, but I think that it's good that designers are trying new things, and I think it's good that he's not just doing more of the same and not trying something new. So, again, like you guys said, I agree. Execution is questionable, but I think you can't deny that he's trying something different. He's probably just curious to see if he can do it.
Mm.
And yeah, who knows? And who knows until you see it in hand, too, right? We're
You got
looking.
you got to respect it. You got to respect
I've
it.
seen it in hand.
Okay, I see.
You also
Yeah.
made a
Oh wait,
great
was that at Commune or how did that?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
showcase like 20 or 15 pieces from this collection.
Alex, you made a
Oh yeah, well,
great point about 8 though, with it being I think he can do a lot with styling. And the thing that made me realize that some of this was carried by the styling and I didn't realize it until I got it in hand was that literally this shirt I'm wearing, this Iris long sleeve. That was something
Yeah.
that looked so good in the lookbook. When I got
Yeah.
it, I realized how do I wear this? Because whenever I tried to wear it by itself, it was just like nothing. Like it was just like this blank like shirt, and I had to get creative with how I wanted to layer it because I wanted to sell it at one point, but then I started getting into like layering it and styling it my own way, and then had to really think about how to use it. So I do kind of that really hit with me with the
Mhm.
8 being more like it's nice, it's simple, but it's simple, and then
Yeah.
when you take it away from the styling, it really isn't anything as much as a 10 would be. I could totally see that point you're making. And I didn't even think about it as like a pattern I'm thinking of it from the
Yeah.
lens of like I don't like the patterns versus thinking of it as like an objective, like looking at it as like again the whole fashion art thing
Mhm.
is like, oh, look what he's doing different. It's he's using
Yeah.
these patterns that he never has done before, and it's his first
Yeah.
attempt, right? So I
He-
totally agree with that.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say also, because it is and maybe this is a take that people. I mean, first, let me say I like 8 much more than I like 10. If I was walking into a store, I would be much more enthusiastic to shop and more excited to walk away with something if it was a store filled with 8 than if it was a store filled with 10. And that's just my personal preference. So, take that into consideration when I say that I don't think that 8 is very complex or that hard to make. I think doing 10, and remember, Ken isn't making Timu clothes, right? Like these aren't, you know, shitty, distressed double knees. Like these are probably methodically done to some degree. And the same thing goes for the Carhartt. Like, okay, yeah, whatever, it's a Carhartt jacket, but I'm sure if we had it in hand and we could break it down, we would see, okay, maybe there's some more unique paneling. Okay, this distressing is well reinforced and it's well done. It's not distasteful, right? But you don't see that in 8. And 8 is at the end of the day, okay, the materials are nice, but the tailoring isn't exceptional. The shapes aren't that experimental, and the shapes that are experimental look terrible. The flared jeans in Lookbook 8 that are beige, or it's flared trousers, they look terrible to me, and that's just my opinion. I also think that the experimental pants that he did in like the indigo wash, I don't think those look great either. And although I don't love the new things from Lookbook 10, I think they look much better than they did 2 lookbooks ago. I think he's done a much better job at experimenting with wear and with destruction. I know that's a crazy word to use in this scenario, but I think he's kind of moving away from this really refined minimalism look that kind of became Vuja Day's identity, partially because it's more difficult to do some of the other stuff. It's more difficult to make things really distressed intricately and well. So, whether or not he's actually reached that point is questionable, but um, I think this is, at the end of the day, the most professional collection that he's put out yet, even if it's not too complete in terms of its narrative and what it's trying to achieve.
From an execution standpoint, you're talking about like just so
Right.
everyone understands what you're saying. Yeah, gotcha. I totally
Yes.
get that. That makes sense. That's why we bring people like you on, bro, because we got to have those opinions, and
Yeah.
there's already been like a lot of viewpoints that I did not come to myself because I'm so caught up. Again, you are so far removed from like the
Yeah,
VD
that's true.
community. So even though
Yeah.
I'm getting to that point, I do still feel like because I'm a proud owner of like 8 or 9 items,
Yeah.
I do have
Mhm.
like this almost like knee jerk reactions, like what are you doing? Like why are you doing it this
Yeah.
way? Don't do it this way. But like the the I don't want to call myself a researcher, but that side of me in the fashion that I am starting to get more passionate about, I can totally see that point that you made, and it like it does have like substance to it because when I'm looking back at 8 with that lens now, I am seeing exactly what you're saying, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
And someone who still owns things from 8, I totally get that too.
Yeah. The point being, I'm not like involved in any of the discourse that happens around Vuja Day. Like this is me. Yeah, I'm definitely coming at this with a um pretty removed standpoint, and the fact that I don't really I watched Ken's videos after I started hearing about Vuja Day, but I think I actually had a pretty negative bias towards Vuja Day initially because I went into Tokyo 7 once and those trousers with the leather double knees, I think. What are they called?
Oh
Yeah, bro, we know
I
what you're
flipped
talking
those
about.
in hands. Those were genuinely some of the worst pants that I've ever felt. And it's crazy because they were priced at like $300, and it's Tokyo 7 in New York. Like they know about Vuja Day and they know people have a
Is
demand
that a
for it.
shop?
But people are gonna buy it no matter what. And there were seams ripped and the leather felt plasticky, even though I'm sure it was fine. Maybe it was just,
The
developed
treatment or
incorrectly.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was I remember trying them on and they were in my size and they fit funny, and I was like, this is one of the worst pairs of trousers or pants I've genuinely ever put on my body for this price point. And I kind of took that bias forward into whenever I heard Vuja Day. I think that's pretty normal, right? When you hear
Yeah.
a brand or you hear a label or you read the tag of something and you're like, wow, this feels like shit. You kind of associate it with the
It's
rest
like
of the brand.
me and Burberry. I have a hate
Burberry, yeah,
relationship with
like something like
Burberry.
that. Yeah.
But I think you made a
So
good point too on that. That's probably also why I have such a knee jerk to 10 is because I was someone who knew about Vuja Day before like I decided to buy things from Vuja Day. I just was watching his vlogs, and then I do remember him making the bondage knee and the double knee, and I thought to myself like, who would ever wear this? And then Seven happened, and it was like he became this whole new brand with like this real like direction. So I think some of these pants specifically in this collection are reminding me of that era, and it's like, why did we go from that? Because bro, a lot of times in my like pickup video comments, which shouldn't matter at all, but I mean, we're humans, it does. It's like me defending my purchases of like, oh bro, like exactly what Alex said, like the bias on Vuja Day was like from that era. It's like, you're buying from this Instagram brand when you could be buying from these brands. Like, that's so shit. Like, don't you remember these double knee bondage? Like, bro, did you watch the video? Like, I didn't buy those. Like, there's a reason why I bought this stuff and not that stuff. Like
yeah.
he's changed. Like, this stuff is good now. It's like I'm trying to, I'm not getting paid to promote any of this. Like, I'm buying this with my own money. So I think that's also where like the negativity rather comes from for me. With some of the items, which I was probably hitting on like sore spots from what I remember before I started to buy from the brand. But
yeah.
I feel like all my favorite brands do that, and I don't care as much about it because I chop it up to the end of the day as like they're bigger conglomerates. Like, let's just give you a real example. Like Dries Van Noten makes a ton of clothes I would never wear, and it's like a lot of those they use trend forecasters and all that. So there's like nothing sandwich clothes that those houses make too. I'm just saying, in this kind of like a setting, I feel like because you're so much smaller scale, you can be more intentional with every single item. And me personally, didn't get some of the attention. That doesn't mean there isn't any intention, like Alex said, but I'm just not getting it. That's the problem I'm having with
Yeah.
this.
Well, also understand that like Vuja Day started out like, dude, this guy was buying like, it's not like he went to Central St. Martin's or like anything like that. Like this guy, used to like talk about like Jordans, I think, like 5 years ago or something. Like he was like into the streetwear scene a little bit, and then he made that god awful varsity jacket with like the clocks and notes on. That is like one of the worst things I've ever seen in the studio. What is it? The studio
Oh, they're gonna
art.
get you. They're gonna get you, bro. They're gonna get you.
I saw that
Bro,
for, like,
nah.
They're gonna get you, bro. All the no, you
You
woke
know
them
they
up.
rep that? There's hella reps of it. People want it
that's
that bad.
that has got to be one of the worst.
That's
Let
like
me
that's like
find
a holy grail within like the VD community, bro. They're gonna get you. Oh, that's so
that is.
funny.
I don't care. I understand that it's exclusive. I don't care. That is one of genuinely.
Even in the commune blog, you could hear people go, "Oh my god!" Like, but there's a guy wearing it. They're like, "Oh my god, you see that? Is that the actual?"
It's because like what's his
The
name?
clock one.
Who wore it? I don't even know. Like it doesn't matter. But
Oh, like the Kendrick jeans, the ones that everyone wanted because Kendrick wore them in the music video, which is crazy. Like, that's so funny to me. They probably lied. Like, Ken probably had like an intern tell him that it was from Capital or something, and he was in Japan and was like, "Yo, you should wear these for your next video."
remember also like who is buying Vuja Day, right? Like there is a real truth that a lot of people who love fashion as the art form and as the expressive form are buying into this random, I don't want to call it an Instagram brand, but this newer brand. It's not a name that, did a graduate collection or anything, right? But most of the people who are buying Vuja Day are Ken fans, right?
Yeah.
And whether we like it or not, I don't think anyone here, who knows about Vuja Day, or sorry, I think everyone here rather who likes Vuja Day probably also likes Ken. Like I like Ken. I think Ken's cool. And I've watched some of his videos retroactively after learning about Vuja Day. But we have that connection to him, and so we kind of see that associated with him. But when you look at it objectively as a brand, like that studio d'art jacket or whatever, do you guys know who Quan is? Like dude who like reviews polyester clothing.
The TikTok guy.
Dude. Oh my god, that's exactly what it looks like to me. And so, anyways, but yeah, like what you said. Remember, Kim, to your point, like Vuja Day isn't really a small brand from Instagram anymore at this
Exactly.
point.
That's
They're releasing full collections, right? Like titled collections,
collabing with Yoji.
With professional photos and real models, and it's it's serious. And so if we're judging it by the same criteria that we judge other fashion brands, this just doesn't really feel very. Try again. Activated by itself. Sorry.
You're good.
It doesn't feel self-expressive, and it doesn't feel like, yeah, like Ken's really putting that. I don't know, his experience as a designer as much into it. It just doesn't. It feels a little bland to me. But like I said before, I also respect the efforts of, like, there's more distressing. There's a little bit more. There's more work being put into these clothes. It's more advanced. It just doesn't feel cohesive, I guess.
Hmm.
No, I totally agree. I think, and like, probably a good way to segue to like closing thoughts. I think, especially with how I speak and how passionate I get about certain things, people can probably, I'll probably go on like a lot of different tangents and ideas, so people might not know exactly what I think about this, and they might just take everything that I just said as like hate. I really don't hate 10. What I do hate is the theme. That's the biggest takeaway, that if you're still watching this video, that I want you to take away from this, is that as someone, like Alex just said, as a brand that is no longer an Instagram brand, which I hate that term, but we're gonna just say that for lack of better words, we are now venturing into the real market for clothes. And when we are that type of brand, which I'm sure Ken has the aspirations of being that type of a brand, like he just gives those vibes. I feel like he wants everything that comes with being a creative director, the allure, all of it. So like, if that's the goal, which it clearly is because we're making full collections, I'm gonna grade you on the scale that I grade all. Like, obviously no one cares about my scale, but I'm saying like professionals. I'm talking about like real fashion journalists, people who show at Fashion Week, people who are stocked in the biggest stores in the world. Obviously, like, the bottom dollar, like the bottom line of how much you sell is the most important thing. Art is secondary, unfortunately, because fashion really is a business industry, not an art industry. But at the end of the day, you still need to, especially for a company who doesn't make like leather good cash cows, because that's literally how most of these corporate businesses survive in the real world. You need to have like a universe for your clothes. Like, you need the customer to feel like they're buying into not only just an aesthetic, but a world building type of brand. That's typically how it goes. So when you don't, I know he has like leather bags and everything now, but when you're not really known as a leather goods company, you're known as a clothing company, and you're trying to make that big jump. I just felt one of the biggest things for these companies is the story, is the show notes, is the theme, is the why. And I felt that was the biggest step back after such good collections back to back, improving on that. That is my biggest problem with this collection, which I know is going to go over a lot of people's heads, or they're just not going to care about it, but that's totally fine. I'm just yapping about what I want to yap about on my channel. So don't think of it as like I hate all the clothes from 10. Yeah, obviously there's some clothes like double knee pants I'll never wear, but I don't think they look as bad as, like Alex said, as like a Temu market pant or something like that. Or like the more Uniqlo bland looks. I'm not a Uniqlo customer, so like I don't like those either. But it's not me hating on the clothes. It's just this like discourse in like this collection altogether. I just didn't get it, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I like Ken's work, is because it has like that psychological like enjoyment out of looking at the lookbooks, the rollout of the collection, which I feel like also he's been kind of not getting, I don't want to use the word lazy because you never know someone's intention, so I don't want to deem him as lazy, but I really miss like the rollout from like 8 for 7, 8, and even 9, and it got you really excited for it, which I feel like we're not really doing anymore. So that's my biggest problem with 10 right now. If anyone else has like closing thoughts, because this video is going to be like fucking 2 hours, bro, and I don't know how I'm gonna edit all this. So but it was good. It was a good yap sesh. So any final thoughts?
I don't know. It kind of just exists to me. Like everyone says, like it's not really cohesive. Especially like looking at the earlier stages of VD to this point, it's like he's bringing back old things, like old graphics, like I don't know, like the double knee thing. Um, it's just not like I don't gravitate it towards the collection as a whole. Not a lot of pieces that stand out. Something I could just like appreciate maybe on some people, but I don't know. On me, my evolution of like fashion has definitely strayed away from like his own journey of his own clothing lines.
Yeah, I'll say from like a garment to garment perspective, this collection is really good. I felt the pieces, like they're constructed just as well as, you know, the pieces from 9, the pieces from 8. Like they're intentionally done and they're well made. Um, so I'm not critiquing the pieces at all, really. I think they're great, and I think the right person will love them. But when we think about it, and when you try to take in the collection as a whole, as has been stated, it feels like not cohesive. It feels kind of messy, and I feel like that's sort of where my problem with it is. Of course, like as Tristan said, I don't really think a lot of this collection fits into what I like to wear, but I could still appreciate it. I'll think it'll look good on people who, or it'll look good on someone who wants to wear it. But yeah, that's my sort of thoughts.
That's a good
I
point.
think for me, you guys have also it's all been touched on already. I think the issues with the cohesiveness and the theme, and I do think there's not too many like standout pieces like in previous collections. I think this jacket Orion and the other one stood out a lot. Maybe no way the Enzo stood out a lot with the denim. But yeah, in here there's nothing that really like stands out to me. Uh but you know, like Toby just said, he's felt it in person, so the quality's still there, and the quality is something we've come to expect from Vuja Day at this point. So that's not something I'm really concerned about. But yeah, I just think one of the things that I do like, it's not anything that I'm feeling the urge that, oh yeah, like, I really need this, or oh, this is like really sort of groundbreaking for VD. But yeah, you know, there's still positives in there, like his use of patterns, maybe some fine details we'll see when stuff comes out. But overall, yeah, it's not my favorite collection.
I'm really interested to see the reception on this video in the comments for the people who watch it, because a lot of people wanted a reaction video for 10, and it's funny because the typical type of person who was asking for it, like either in an Instagram DM or on YouTube comments, was like they were excited for 10, like they were like, oh my god, 10 so far, when's the video gonna drop, like that kind of like comment. So I'm really interested to see if, well, in general, like what people's opinions are about 10 compared to the previous ones, looking at it by itself. Do you care about like this whole comparison that we're making to the more mid-tier luxury fashion brands, and this model that most of them follow with story and theme, and like this whole cohesion thing? Do you only care about the clothes? And if you care about the clothes, what do you think about this aesthetic? Because I definitely feel like it's not anything similar to 8 or 9 for the most part. Yeah, you can draw like very specific points, but as a collection, it's very different. So I'm just very, very curious. I have no idea what the reaction's gonna be, because I'm not tapped into like the I know those like those Vuja Day like chats that exist out there in the world. So like I'm sure people have been talking about it there, but besides really like, you know, one of us who do a pickups video, there's no real like Vuja Day talk content on the internet, at least like publicly. So would really encourage people to like type in the comments like, you know, which points you kind of agreed on, anything that we were missing from this. If there's something with the theme specifically for my point that I'm completely missing, please tell me. Because again, guys, it's not like I'm sitting here on my high horse, like talking down to you, saying like this is the way it has to be. Like I would love for someone to be like, you missed this, and this reference, and now it's all gonna make sense. That would be great. I love that like as much as getting it the first time. So yeah, just feel free to leave your comments down below, and really big thanks to everyone who joined me today. This was so fun, actually. Like this little TED talk. This was just geeking out on like just random stuff. So yeah, it's been really great. And yeah, more content to come, and more content with these guys to come later. But that's all I'm gonna say for now. So
Any shameless plugs, guys?
oh yeah,
Any
last words?
got a pickups video coming soon, because
hey,
Ken's video's his video's gonna come out before that one comes out. So yeah.
Yeah, sub to Jojo Maro, sub to Alex Ma, sub to Toby K, sub to Tristan, who's eventually gonna have a YouTube channel. Tristan,
Eventually, I'm gonna be peer pressured.
bro, everyone knows you,
Bro,
especially in the VD space. You should definitely make one, bro.
Bro,
Yeah,
just
you
steal our
should.
footage, man, and like re-edit
I want
it.
I want the Seattle vlog, bro. I want to know.
Oh yeah, I'll try. It's just so like limited out here.
But yeah, anyways, that is it for now, because this video is already going to be ridiculously long for me to edit. It's going to crash my PC at least 10 times, but I'll try to get it out as fast as possible. But thanks again for everyone who came out. This was super fun, and I will catch you all later. Peace out.
Peace.